My name is Beatrice Tayez. I am 15 years old. I've been diabetic for 8, almost 9 years. My journey has been pretty tough. I'm not really energetic just because of how my blood sugars are. If I'm really high, I tend to be irritated. I get really tired. I just want to sleep, and that's kind of hard because when people want to talk to me, I'm just like pushing them away because I don't want to talk to anyone. When I'm low, I tend to have anxiety, and last week I had a panic attack because it went really, really low. So I was stressed. I was, not knowing what to do. I lose focus of what I'm doing. It's hard. I have to be injecting myself with insulin a lot of times every time I eat, every 3 hours for my blood glucose. That's like hard to do when you're out with friends, at a dinner with your family, at any other public places. There's been times where I'd be at restaurants trying to do like my stuff, like poking my finger, blood coming out. People would just like look like, oh, that's gross. Why are you doing that here? So I'd usually just go to the bathroom, do what I need to do, and then just come out. And sometimes I'd be like, I wish they understood what it's like. But it wasn't my choice to have diabetes.
Beatrice has type 1 diabetes, which is largely caused by her genes or environmental factors that are beyond her control. However, there is another form of diabetes, type 2, that is sweeping the country. This form of diabetes is often caused by poor lifestyle habits. 1/3 of the U.S. population either already has diabetes type 2 or is on track to get it. 1/3. In the COVID-19 pandemic, people suffering from diabetes have been much more seriously affected than non-diabetics. We are facing a public health crisis of our own making.
The first time I found out I had diabetes, I was in the emergency room with what I thought was a kidney stone. It ended up being a kidney infection. And they did a bunch of blood work, and they called me right back into the emergency room the next day and said that I had diabetes. I was over 600 points, which is, they figured I'd had it for at least 3 years. And they said on top of this, why it was taking so hard to heal is I had diabetes, and that I had it quite bad. So it was a big shock to my life. I had to change my eating habits. I had to change everything. I have to take pills 4 times a day. And I check my blood sugar at least twice a day, sometimes more. So this is a spring-loaded needle, and I put it against my finger, prick, and it's usually blood's pretty easy. Testing is your strip up against the blood, and then it tells you within about 4 or 5 seconds what your blood sugar is. Mine right now is 130, which is just 5 points higher than the average normal range. When my blood sugar gets too low, I get really bad shakes. I'll know because even trying to hold a fork, my hand has uncontrollable shakes. If it got too low, I could become unconscious. It's called a diabetic coma. If my blood sugar is too high, I get really bad hot flashes. I'll start sweating uncontrollably. And so if I start sweating, I know I need to check my blood sugar. And then it would be an insulin shot. One of the downfalls, I should say, of giving myself a shot is I get lots of bruises in my stomach. And trying to, they go away, but trying to not hit blood vessels, you kind of learn where spots are that you gave yourself a shot and it didn't bleed. But it took me a while to find the right needle that worked with me. Some needles are thicker, some needles are longer. You only need to go in about a half an inch, but so when I have to give myself a shot, I kind of have spots where I know I can go through. As a kid, a lot of Burger King, a lot of McDonald's, Taco Bell, I would have never eaten that stuff if I had known ahead of time. There's so much processed sugar in even in a Big Mac. The buns themselves have sugar in it. so that making it more addictive so you want more. Same with their French fries. They're not true total potato French fries. There's additives to them when they create them as fries, and they taste so good is because your body starts craving that what they put in it.
I was never what you would call one of the thin girls, but I wasn't super overweight either. I was athletic and active. I think once I became an adult, I was busy working, and then I had piggyback pregnancies, and then I just became inactive, and that really contributed to it. Having diabetes is a pain in the neck. You have to think about everything. You have to, if you're at a wedding and there's cake and a lot of fattening food, you have to watch yourself and, watch your portions. You can't drink as much because alcohol turns straight to sugar. You have to keep your blood sugar in check. You have to go to the doctor every 3 months, whether you want to or not. You have to take care of your feet and look at your feet, make sure there's no blisters. So right now I have a big blister on the bottom of my foot, and it started out as a big water blister and it burst. And then of course with any blister with anyone, it exposes really fragile skin. It's new skin. It's like a baby. I have to bandage it every day. I have to hang my foot out of the shower to take a shower so it doesn't get wet. I have to keep it clean. I can't get regular shoes on right now because of the dressing. And so being a diabetic, you're susceptible to infection. And so that blister, when you're diabetic, it causes ulcers. And ulcers are basically eating away your tissue. And the doctor's concern is that it will get bigger and more infected, and you could lose your foot. It could go all the way up to your leg. It's really important to take care of it when you're a diabetic.
I've been working with people who have diabetes for about 5 years after all of my schooling. And I've really realized that diabetes, out of all of the different diseases or illnesses out there, is one of the places where people can really, through their own personal changes, impact kind of the progress of the disease. They can reverse the disease, and they really have a lot of control, even when they just make small changes. So humans are hardwired, from millennia ago when food was scarce, to want sugar, fat, and salt. Those are the things that when we eat them, when we taste them, our brain just lights up. That's why all these processed packaged foods, they all have sugar, they all have salt, and they all have fat. All types of diabetes relate to something called insulin resistance. So this is when the insulin that the body is producing isn't working as well as it used to, or as it should, to pull the sugar out of the blood and stick it into the cells where we can use it. It is a vicious cycle of you don't feel good, so you eat to feel better. And we know that when people eat, especially these high sugar, high carbohydrate foods, it releases serotonin, a hormone that makes us feel good. But the thing about that is, it's almost like a drug, where if you keep having that cycle, the reward gets less and less and less over time. So most people end up consuming more and more and more to get that same happy feeling. So food addiction can be a real detriment to trying to manage the diabetes well. So when the blood sugars are going high, it acts like sandpaper on the little tiny capillaries, the little tiny vessels all over our body. So that blood is going everywhere. And when that sugar is high, it's causing damage everywhere it goes. So if it's going to the kidney cell, it's causing damage in those kidneys like sandpaper. And that's where those kidneys can become leaky, they don't work as well, and that can result in someone needing dialysis.
I was diagnosed about 3 or 4 years ago with kidney failure. The symptoms included tiredness and inability to digest food, and went to several doctors and to a kidney specialist who said that I had kidney failure and recommended dialysis. The kidneys are supposed to handle the digestion of fluids. There's 2 different kinds in here, 2 different kinds of boxes full of 2 different kinds of bags, and I go through approximately this much every month. It's mostly water, but it has sugar and starch in various mixes, and even in some cases other chemicals. The cost of this is probably in the neighborhood of $100,000 a year. Yeah. Okay, there is the stuff. It can be quite complicated. If you follow the directions carefully, everything works out. If you make a mistake, the machine may beep at you, but on the other hand, it may just try to do it, and you might have a mess or something worse. So you can't be 100% sure of all this. Underneath that bandage there is where this tubing actually goes into my body. Where this little belt is where I wear this during the day so that it doesn't hang down and get in the way and so on. So it stays reasonably clean and out of the way. And this is the patient line, and this is the other end. This is the end that goes into my body. This is what I do. I clean this one, and I clean it rather thoroughly. And then it's ready. Then after it starts pumping, I can go lie down and sleep for 8 hours or whatever.
Well, my name is Scott, and I used to be an electrician until all the complications of diabetes crept up on me. I miss my job. Been diabetic diagnosed for a good 15 years now, which in itself wasn't so bad. The complications that came along with it are eventually what will kill me. Diabetes basically starts picking apart your body and killing off parts. Parts that you really need to live. So now, complications, they're the worst part of it. Gastroparesis. Start off with the nasty one. Gastroparesis, your stomach is paralyzed. You have no more stomach function. The food just builds up in your system until it has nowhere else to go. So you're at a moment's notice, you could be anywhere, and you're running to the bathroom, or you're vomiting. See that? That's in my pocket all the time. It's a vomit bag. No, it's not a large condom. It's a vomit bag, because, well, when you're in the middle of Safeway and you got to throw up, you got it. Anywhere, driving down the road, birthday parties, plan on keeping that with you. Kidney disease, my kidneys are functioning now at about 12%. I will be on dialysis. Not thrilled about that. If you like hiking, walking, swimming, plan on giving a lot of that up. Thing called diabetic neuropathy. You will not feel your feet after a while. You will not feel your fingers or your hands after a while. I haven't felt my feet up to about my knees in 5 or 6 years. Try walking when you can't feel your feet and what they're stepping on. Give up hiking on rocks because you don't know where your foot's at, and you're going to go down hard. Done it. Hoping not to offend anybody, but all you young stud bucks out there, guess what? When it takes hold, you're not a young stud buck anymore. You're a guy that doesn't ever have sex again. Yeah, I know. From an old guy that's got no teeth, that looks like he's been under a steamroller. It's funny. It ain't so funny when it happens to you. Vision problems. Within probably the next 2 years, I'll be blind in my right eye. 100% blind. It's at about 60% right now.
It takes many injections to improve. And go ahead and look up and left. Perfect. I call it. Okay. Well done. Still able to see my hand?
Yep.
But this is common, relatively. It's all called diabetic macular edema. Macula is the retina, and edema is the fluid there. So it's diabetic macular edema. Still see my hand? Good. All right, sir. We'll see if this makes things better. By bit. We'll see each other in a month.
La diabetes corre en mi familia por no nos educamos en comer, comíamos lo que podíamos y mis padres en realidad nunca pusieron atención en qué teníamos que comer. A nosotros no nos educaron qué era lo que teníamos que comer y aparte de eso qué era lo que no teníamos que beber. Nos arrimaban refrescos, sodas y nosotros tomábamos. Si a una persona nos hubiera dicho que nos hacía bastante daño, posiblemente lo hubiéramos dejado. Hacer ejercicio es algo que nos ayuda y es un sacrificio que tenemos que hacer. Es difícil a veces porque sales cansado de trabajar. Hay veces que mi mujer me está esperando para comer y yo le digo, discúlpame, tengo que ir al gimnasio. Y llego y me voy y regreso en la tarde y ya como. Tengo una aliada o cómplice que me ayuda muchísimo. A la hora de servirme, me sirve porciones pequeñas y eso me ayuda mucho. Y ella trata de hacer las comidas con menos grasas, con menos sal, más saludables y eso me ayuda bastante. También a ella. Básicamente el progreso se notó rápido. En un mes y medio yo me empecé a sentir mejor. Iba a checarme a la clínica y mi nivel de azúcar estaba normal.
There's no magic pill for diabetes or for health in general, but if there were, it would be exercise. Exercise, the way it really helps manage diabetes is when we move our muscles, especially our large muscles. When we exercise those muscles, they become very greedy and they pull that sugar out of the blood and stick it in those muscle cells, even if that insulin isn't working as well as it used to do that function.
They call diabetes a silent killer because you really have no side effects. You really can't notice anything until it's really advanced, until you're almost type 1 diabetic, that you can really see a problem. After I found out that I had type 2 diabetes, I got really depressed. I was going through a recent separation with my ex-wife. And the last thing in my mind was to eat something healthy. So I just went to the easy way out, like comfort food. Like I would just eat something fried up at the house, or I would just go out and get fast food, which wasn't making my condition any better. And at first I was put on a medicine, metmorphin, which is pretty typical for pre-diabetic people or type 2 diabetics. And that was one of the things that motivated me to learn more about it and do everything I could to fight this disease, because I didn't want to be under medication for the rest of my life. Being 38 years old, I didn't want to be under medication. So I think at that time I made the resolution that I was going to do the best I could to fight the disease and to take things under my control and not be under medicine and all that stuff. I was not aware that anytime you eat bread, rice, anything carbohydrates, your body will process it into sugar. I stopped drinking soda. I stopped drinking juice. And my choices of drinks became water or flavored water. And that was basically it. I mean, I had to change all these things, like high grease, high fat meals. I stopped that too. That's when I started exercising more. Every time I come out here to the park, it's a connection with nature, and I really like that part of it. And also I feel great when I run. It helps me in all kinds of ways, not only physically but mentally. I feel better, and I just feel happy when I do it. That's why I keep doing it. I had another lab test done like 3 months after my diagnosis, and my sugar levels came back really low. So at that time I knew that I was on the right track. And later on I went back to the doctor, and that's when he said, "Who told you you have diabetes?" Because my sugar levels seemed totally normal. And I told him, "Well, you did." And he said, "Well, you don't have diabetes anymore, but if you keep making bad choices on what you eat and your lifestyle, it could come back."
A wide variety of fresh fruits and vegetables are offered by supermarkets, and increasingly people realize the value of farmers' markets, which often accept EBTs or food stamps.
All the vegetables and fruit that we pick are incredibly nutrient dense because we are picking them the day of that we're selling them at the farm stand. So they are picked almost completely ripe, and so they have the full nutritional value versus something that is picked green and shipped across the country and takes about 2 weeks to ripen while it's in a box. So we're picking it when it's at its peak maturity and at its best flavor.
So one of the reasons it's so important to buy farm fresh produce is that it's really nutrient dense. We put a lot of inputs into the soil. We're composting, we're feeding the soil. So all those essential minerals and nutrients go into the fruit. You can see it in the color, you can smell it. It's incredibly delicious. So one of the reasons that we grow organic instead of commercial is that we're not putting any pesticides, which are poisons basically, into the soil. And that protects the farm workers, it protects the consumer, it protects our land and the ecosystem around it, the birds, the insects. Eating farm fresh produce is a really great way to take care of your health and to have your body systems regulate themselves.
There's a lot of advantages, but for me, the one that sticks out the most is that I get full faster, and definitely the fresh produce lasts longer in my refrigerator other than buying frozen stuff. My family has a lot of history in diabetes and other health issues, and so definitely healthy meals are a great advantage to my family and myself to stay healthy, stay active, bring more awareness as well. It's a huge part of being healthy. It's a huge part of my life.
Big food corporations continue to spend hundreds of millions of dollars on research and marketing for their processed foods. They concoct the perfect mixtures of salt, sugar, and fat to create cravings for their products. These corporations also spend millions of dollars lobbying politicians to defend their profits, rather than our health. Screen time keeps us immobile, adding to the problem. Our bodies can't keep up. Obesity and diabetes rates continue to rise. But we do have a choice, a crucial choice. We can change our lifestyle habits.
So all you kids thinking you got a hook on things, if you got to open a package to eat it, it's the wrong thing to eat. Bottom line, from them granola bars, cereal especially, boxed rice, canned anything, not good at all for you. When you think, oh, I got to eat something quick, I'm going to grab a bag of chips and a soda, way wrong choice. It will affect you in the long run.
I have to look at every label of everything I buy. But I've learned what works for me and what doesn't. I eat a lot of lean meat, a lot of salads, a lot of green vegetables.
You have your whole lives ahead of you. You know, this is a great time to start making changes, because even if you feel invincible, this is what's setting you up for, you know, not just how you'll feel in 5 years or 10 years, but 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. And if you're making, you know, good choices, good changes now, that can set you up for a future of good health.
Before, my fast meal was go to Subway, get a 12-inch sandwich and a bag of chips and a Coke. That was my fast meal. This is my fast meal today. I'm gonna be making a smoothie. So I'll use a banana. I ran 6 miles this morning, by the way, so I know that I can have some carbs. I got a fresh harvest apple, local apple. I got organic spring mix. I have crunchy almond butter, unsweetened, by the way. I do about a teaspoon of that. I have chia seeds, which are great. And I do vegetable protein, vegan protein, and almond milk. And ready to blend. Voila. So that only took me 3 minutes, and that's my fast meal today. Delicious.